In the spirit of Halloween, paranormal or not, what is the scariest, creepiest or most unsettling experience of your life? An older guy would visit the Target store where I worked as a teenager every week. It was always on a Tuesday and he would stand and stare at me, always ensure he was in my checkout line, even if it was the busiest one Tuesday. He finally spoke and said that I remind him of his granddaughter, who sadly passed away. I'm 6'2", 191 centimeters, and have a lot of tattoos, so I was confused how I could remind someone of anyone. Anyway, the next Tuesday he came back into the store and showed me pictures of his granddaughter. There was a slight resemblance but nothing that obvious. I did my best to be polite to this man, as he wasn't really doing anything creepy or bad. Over the next few weeks though, he began to arrive at the store and just watch me from the entrance. He wouldn't come in but just stare. One Sunday I was doing overtime and this man came into the store, took me by the arm and said, "I can't believe it. You're alive." After wrestling myself out of his grip I stepped back. I managed to make eye contact with my brother, who is 6 feet 6 inches, built like a tank. He was a storeman at the store also. He walked over and stood in front of me but was not being overtly imposing. "Can we help you today?" my brother asked. The man tried to grab me again and was screaming that I was his granddaughter. My brother pushed me further back and called security. The older man had lost some momentum but was still trying to grab me. My brother was able to hold him back without much effort but ensured that he was not hurting the man. The security came and the old man was escorted off the premises. From what I was told, he was banned from coming back to the store. I was also told further down the track that this man was from an aged care facility. He had dementia but was stable enough to go out on day trips weekly, hence, only coming on Tuesday. I feel very sorry for this man and the grief that he must have gone through, especially with dementia. He may have had to relive discovering his granddaughter's death daily. It was certainly a scary situation for my 18-year-old self to be in. Now, being a psych nurse I would probably handle it better. But I was naive. I was sure glad my brother was on hand to help. I'll probs get buried but here goes. 4 years ago, my freshman year of college, me and a few friends went to check out the haunted bridge in town. It was in the woods over a creek, right behind a shopping center. The story goes that multiple people had died on the bridge over the years, and that the ghost of a man who died arguing with his wife haunted the bridge. Typical shit. We get to the bridge and it is about 20 feet above the ground, having to walk up a steep hill to reach it, and had steep drops on the sides. We go across the bridge, and walk about 100 yards down the road past it, and nothing happened. So we turn around, light-hearted since it seemed a hoax. As we turn and start making our way back, we all start hearing very heavy and loud footsteps in the woods right next to us. The creepy part was that they stopped when we stopped walking and started back when we did. My friend yells "hey" loudly, thinking it would scare off any animal following us, but nothing happens. We make it back to the edge of the bridge and could hear it in the woods just below us on this hill. I was carrying a small .38 special in case of hobos, and called out, "I have a gun. Leave us alone or I'll shoot." At that moment, all of the trees blew as if a strong wind gust came, but it wasn't windy that night, and a voice louder than I've ever heard screamed at us. We all promptly sprinted to our cars, sped away to the Waffle House and figured we just had an encounter with a ghostie. This happened earlier this year, actually. I was still in school, about to graduate though, so I still got to show off with my cool story, and had just went over to my mom's house for the weekend. Flash forward a few hours and she decided she needs cigarettes. We went to her regular gas station, my brother and I tagged along for whatever reason, and she just gets out. Leaves her window down and everything. My brother, in the front seat, couldn't reach far enough to roll it up, so we just leave it. A few seconds later, I really ghetto-esque looking man, he was white if that makes a difference, comes out, looks over to where our car is, presumably notices the window is down, yells something, waves and starts walking towards us. He realizes no one is on the driver's side I guess and walks around to my brother's window. Brother rolls it down a bit and the guy tells us he's lost and trying to take someone home and asks for directions. We admittedly had no idea where we were directing him to but just pull some street names out of our asses that we knew were in the general vicinity of where he needed to go. Suddenly, the guy shoves basically his entire torso through the window and starts whispering to us and saying something along the lines of "You can either give me everything you have or get out of the car." I remember clearly saying the car didn't have much gas and then we kept on telling him a fresh set of directions we had finally pieced together. Guy keeps on saying the same thing until I guess he gives up. He sort of removes himself from the car, leans back, like he was frustrated, holds his hand out for us to shake and proceeds to formally introduce himself. Tells us he's really lost and asks for the directions again but in relation to where his house is. He apparently knew how to get to his own home but nowhere after that. We tell him, he says his name, tells us to find him on Facebook and send him a friend request. He says goodbye, thanks us, waves and heads back to his car. Our mom, who showed up in the middle of the whole ordeal, was completely unaware of anything. But, yeah, that's the scariest thing that ever happened to me and also the story of how I became Facebook friends with the guy who tried to rob me. I live in South Carolina in a small, rural town that's just over the border from Charlotte, North Carolina. One night some buddies and myself are riding around old dirt roads in a pickup truck. The guy who is driving just bought a spotlight, so everyone riding in the truck decided to hop in the bed and spotlight the woods and brush on the side of the road. We've been driving for about 5 minutes when we see the reflection of some eyes. We stop and have the spotlight shining right at the largest set of eyes I have ever seen. We are all just sitting there frozen, staring into these eyes. About 5 more minutes have gone by with us just staring at this set of eyes when one of the guys realizes that this whole time the eyes have been getting closer and closer to us. I freak out and throw a can that was in the back of truck, and that's when the set of eyes stands up and shows its true self. Attached to these huge eyes is a panther that had been creeping closer to us. Apparently there are wild panthers in my hometown and throughout Upper SC and Lower North Carolina. That's where the Carolina Panthers NFL team get their mascot, and this particular one had been hunting my friends and me. Scariest thing that had ever happened to me, hands down. When I was about 7 years old, I had one of them beds that were like a bunk bed, but the underneath was tent sort of area for desks or storage. This means that when laying down, you can't see much in your room, let alone the floor. I woke up at perhaps 3 a.m. once to my floorboards squeaking in my room. I was so scared. I was laying down and was too scared to sit up and look. For about 7 minutes I was hearing the floorboards in my room squeak as if someone was trying really hard to be quiet. Finally I gained the courage to look, and it was my goddamn cat. He had snuck into my room before I went to sleep. I have 5 siblings, so the house we lived in growing up was pretty spacious. My parents and siblings went on a weekend trip when I was 16. I stayed home alone because I was sick. I spent the evening in bed watching Netflix, reading, etc. in peace, but at 3 a.m. I heard the stairs creaking. At first I hoped I was imagining it, but nope, they were definitely footsteps. I got out of bed and quickly locked the bedroom door as the footsteps came closer. Then the fucking doorknob started to shake. At this point I was absolutely sure I was about to be killed, as all my family was out of town and no one else had keys to the house. I started sobbing, managing to dial my boyfriend, but, of course, no answer. So all this time, I don't know how long it actually was, but it felt endless. Someone's thumping against the door and trying to twist the doorknob open. My boyfriend finally picks up the phone to me crying hysterically about how I was about to be murdered. At that moment, the doorknob stops twisting and I hear a familiar voice say my name. Turns out, my brother had decided to come home from college to visit over the weekend, but for some reason did not let either of my parents know beforehand. Wandering in at 3 a.m., he was weirded out by finding lights on and was afraid something had happened to my family. TLDR, my brother drops by unexpectedly and I assume he is a murderer. When I was walking by the side of my house one day, I got lifted up off the ground by the collar of my shirt and was dangling there, choking, for a few seconds before getting dropped. When I turned around to go off on whoever did it, there was no one there. Strange. I was moving out of my apartment. Strange things have been going on, such as phantom whispers at night. I was living alone and was trying to move out as quick as possible. It was 9 p.m. and we were running a few things to my girlfriend's place. My box spring for my bed was leaning against the wall in the hallway. All of the lights were on. My girlfriend and I carried mattress out to my car to strap it on top. When we came back, all of the lights were off except one, which was a little lamp in my room, and the box spring moved to the opposite wall and 4 feet down, blocking my door as if something didn't want me to leave or enter. We said fuck it and dropped everything and decided to finish packing during the day. That night I had nightmares about me sleeping in my apartment. I was watching myself sleep and I saw this shadowy figure watching me. The scary thing was, in my dream I was wearing a shirt that I was from the last night I slept in there.